it's really, of course, been an extraordinary election and election campaign, and since, as far as I know, unless it happened in the 5 or 10 minutes since I walked in from the car, we still don't actually have an outcome declared for this election, so I obviously won't speak about outcomes. But it has been striking to me how intensely followed this election has been by Israelis as well as, of course, by Americans. And, of course, it's been one of the most intense and, in some ways, difficult campaigns that I can recall in American society. Whatever the result and however one stacks up the numbers, I think it is evidence that there continue to be some very, very strong divisions, deep divisions within American society. And all of us as Americans have the responsibility as we move forward with whatever our new administration looks like to try to heal those divisions and strengthen our country. But I have really been struck by the intensity of the interest that Israelis have in this election. And I guess that's for two reasons. One, because Israelis, like many other countries, believe that American elections can affect them, and that American leadership affects their security and their standing in the world. And so they take it seriously. But I think it also reflects how closely we identify with one another, how close our bilateral relationship is, and the shared democratic values we have run very, very deep. I have, again, since we don't have yet even a president-elect declared, and I certainly, even if we did, wouldn't be in a position to describe what the next administration is going to do, I think what it's most useful for me to do is describe what I think the continuity in the U.S.-Israel relationship is that the new administration will inherit. Obviously, it's been true for decades, and it's certainly been true during President Obama's administration, that the United States has the deepest and strongest commitment to Israel's security and to promoting the peace and stability that we all want to see in this part of the world, and would allow Israel to thrive and survive as a strong, secure, Jewish, democratic state at peace with its neighbors. I think that is a continuity of American policy that has run through administrations of both parties and for many decades, and I believe it's going to remain a central feature of American foreign policy for many, many years to come. What the new administration will inherit, however, is some very, very specific achievements by President Obama and Prime Minister Netanyahu together in the security field, where we have dramatically deepened and upgraded our security partnership in missile defense with the breakthroughs in Iron Dome and David Sling and Arrow 3, now in tunnel detection technology, with the signing of our new 10-year, $38 billion Memorandum of Understanding, and all the systems that will enable Israel to acquire, including F-35s, which are going to arrive next month, the first ones as well. Much deeper intelligence cooperation that addresses all the common threats we share: Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, Daesh, all of the many instabilities and terrorist and weapons mass destruction threats that exist in this region. Now even deeper in the field of cyber as well. And so that's all on the table, all achievements of the last 8 years. Some of them predate that and have continued. Some of them have really only been initiated during these last 8 years, and the new administration will inherit that and have a chance to build on it. The administration will also inherit an economic partnership that has dramatically been upgraded in recent years as well. Much of that is led by our private sectors, particularly in the high-tech industries, where so many American companies have found success with research and development and product development and innovation here in Israel. But increasingly, Israeli companies are finding that America is a perfect market or platform to take those technologies global and get into the American market. And so we have really a very vigorous two-way economic partnership that is growing, that has been undergirded by additional initiatives to expand the dialogues between the economic policymakers in our government. And I believe there's great opportunity to build on that and grow as well. It's also true that the United States and Israel retain the close partnership and self-identification of two democracies, those shared values we always talk about. And any administration, as really it's more something that's foundational between our peoples, will have that commonality to build on as well. So obviously, the current Israeli security professionals and members of the Prime Minister's team and ministers in the government who we work with, I think will attest to the positive work we have done together. Many of them will continue and be partners for the new administration to work with. And again, I think these are joint achievements, and they really stand the next administration in good stead as they get underway. Last but not least, I'll just say that President Obama, in all circumstances, remains the president until January 20th, when the new president is inaugurated. I think it's important that I take the opportunity to reassure Israelis that during that transition period, it's business as usual in our alliance. We will have, throughout this period, many senior visits by senior defense and intelligence officials, continuing their professional exchanges with their Israeli counterparts across many, many fields. And I know the traffic goes in both directions, and I fully expect we'll see Israeli delegations in Washington during that field. It covers security, it covers regional affairs, it covers arms control, it covers economic policy, homeland security, health and social affairs. There's really no field that will not be covered in any 2-month period of time in the U.S.-Israel relationship, and that is also true when we are in a transition. We will very much want a new administration to hit the ground running on all the aspects of the bilateral relationship that I referenced. And we'll have one very, very, I think, rich opportunity to celebrate a milestone in that relationship, but also something that represents the future and the opportunity to build, and that is that on December 12th, the first two F-35 Joint Strike Fighter aircraft will arrive here in Israel at Nevatim Air Force Base. That is the beginning of the next generation and the backbone of the Israeli Air Force for the next generation. And I believe it will be a very important moment, both of symbolism and substance, in terms of a partnership that has achieved a great deal, as I mentioned, until this moment, and has many, many opportunities to achieve even more in the years ahead. On the issue of the Security Council or any action the Obama administration might consider related to Israeli-Palestinian issues, there's really nothing I can add to what I've said previously on this, which is that there's no decision and there's no particular direction for a decision and there's no timetable for a decision. What there is a deep concern, as has been expressed by not just the United States, but by all the members of the Quartet in the Quartet report published last summer, that the two-state solution is receding from us, that conditions on the ground, a combination of violence and incitement and governance challenges on the Palestinian side, and settlement expansion and demolitions of Palestinian homes and constriction on Palestinian economic development in Area C from the Israeli side. Hamas's, of course, continued terror reign in Gaza, all pose challenges that are making the two-state solution, which remains the goal of the United States, it remains the goal of the Prime Minister, more difficult with each passing day. And we're quite worried about that. The Quartet report identifies a number of steps on the ground that we believe the parties can take addressing those challenges I mentioned in the hopes of trying to steer us back onto the path of resumed negotiation eventually. It wouldn't happen in the near term, I don't think, but arresting those trends that are really taking us into a place where we think the two-state solution may become near impossible to achieve, and we may be faced with a binational reality, the very thing we and the Prime Minister and Palestinians all say they do not want. So that's what the Quartet report provides. By the same token, the President asks himself and asks us as an administration if there are any steps that we might take in the remaining time that he has in office that would also help arrest those trends that take us in the direction of a binational reality and put us back on the path of negotiated two-state solution, making that at least an achievable, viable objective for the next administration and its partners here to work on together. There's any number of range of options that have been proposed, and you mentioned one, but I can name 10 others, and there are advocates for and detractors against all such proposals. It would be impossible for me to speculate on any particular decision, certainly based on something that hasn't been drafted or proposed yet. But I can say that the motivation of any initiative that the President would consider during this period is exactly what I said. How do we help arrest the trends that are taking us away from a two-states for two-people solution and toward a binational reality, and put the two-state solution back on the path of viability for the future? So that's the motivation behind even considering the question. In terms of the JCPOA, I certainly will not speculate on the next administration's approach to it. What I will say is that we continue to believe, and I think the evidence bears this out, that the JCPOA has been very successful in doing exactly what it was designed to do. That is to block systematically each pathway Iran had to achieve a nuclear weapon, uranium enrichment, plutonium, covert means, by removing the materials from enriched uranium to centrifuges to blocking up the plutonium facility, and putting in place the most intrusive monitoring and inspection regime that we've ever seen, such that there's no chance that Iran during the term of this agreement is going to be able to break out, and they will remain at least 1 year distance from a breakout. This is a far more advantageous situation than we were in before the JCPOA. There's no disagreement, by the way, between the United States and Israeli experts about Iran's adherence to the terms of that agreement. And so we believe strongly, and obviously will recommend to the next administration that this agreement should continue, because it does fulfill that function. But you know what the next group of American policymakers will decide in consultation with Israeli and P5+1 and Arab and other partners, I will not speculate on. And as for the embassy, I go to work where our embassy is, and that's been the decision of every president that has looked at this issue over many decades. Again, there's no point in my speculating on the future.